Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of New York Giants Corner here at Toilets to Titles Network. I am your host, Joe. It is Wednesday, May 24th. I hope everyone's having a wonderful spring so far. I know that I am. It's been a tiring spring, only tiring in a good way, a good type of tired. Like a lot of things getting done, a lot of accomplishments getting done, but just taking a lot of time and stuff like that. But that's a good worthy tiredness, and that's what I've been feeling this week. So it's good, 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 good. And so anyway, guys, we've got the last leg of the New York Giants 2023 draft class to talk about. I realize it's like almost a month later, but I've been trying to spread out the content. This is a difficult time of the year to come up with content, so I was trying to spread it out. So far, I did episodes on Deontay Banks, and then I did another episode on John Michael Schmitz. I did another episode on Jalen Hyatt, and this is the fourth and final draft class episode where I'm covering the final four players that we took in rounds 5 through 7, as well as one undrafted free agent. We had a few actually. We had quite a few undrafted free agents, and some that I actually am really intrigued by. But there's one in particular, and that's Bryce Ford-Wheaton, wide receiver out of West Virginia, who I'll be talking about last. But anyway, so this will be the last draft-related episode, but I'm definitely psyched to talk about it because I like what we did in day 3 of the 2023 NFL Draft. I thought there was a lot of upside there, good potential players, and I'm excited to talk about. So, but before we do that, before we dive into the actual content, let me get the bells and whistles out of the way. If you can, just a reminder, hit that like button, subscribe, give us that 5-star Apple review because it really helps us out a lot. Thank you so much. And by the way, our subscribers here at Toilets to Titles have been skyrocketing over the past few months. So we really appreciate it. Thank you so much to each and every one of you. Where you can find the show: Apple Podcast, YouTube, Facebook, Podbean, and Spotify. If you go to our beautiful, wonderful website, toiletstotitles.com, it has all of our videos and articles. We cover NFL football, college football, fantasy football. That was our original content was fantasy football when we started Toilets to Titles. But we branched out to NFL, college football, and draft content. We really knocked it out of the park this year with this just past NFL draft. So we really knocked it out of the park. We had Toilets to Titles and the CFB Nation team members that were at the Senior Bowl, that were at the Combine, and that were at the draft. It was absolutely wonderful. Really couldn't be prouder. Honestly, couldn't be prouder. It was so cool. And speaking of the CFB Nation, a few months ago we partnered with the CFB Nation. They cover our college football content, so they basically cover the college football players. Melvin, go away. Sorry, my dog is bugging me again. They cover college football. Cover college football players, and then when those players graduate, Toilets and Titles takes them over. So, but please follow at the CFB Nation. Really appreciate it. They are our sister network here at T2T. And oh, Melvin, my dog doesn't like when I'm speaking into my monitor. So check them out. Great program. Those guys are doing a wonderful job over there. Real bang up job. Patreon.com/show-us-the-titles. If you go there, you can learn how you can further support our network. And I just want to say thank you so much to our current Patreon supporters. We really appreciate you appreciating us. And the Gilded chat. There's an app called Gilded. We have a chat in there. If anyone wants to, please come in. We're up like, oh, Melvin, stop. Melvin wants to get into the Gilded chat real badly. We haven't let him in because he's a pain in the ass. I love you, Melvin, but you're a real pain in the ass. He wants to get into our Gilded chat, but we don't really allow noisy dogs in there. Anyway, the app, Gilded, we have a chat in there if you want to talk anything football, especially fantasy football. It's definitely going to heat up. We've got like 125 people in Gilded right now in our Gilded chat. If you have, during fantasy season, you have any questions, just come on in, throw your questions out there. You'll get plenty of responses. But also, you just want to talk college football, you want to talk NFL football, and if you want to talk about Frankenstink, oh, Melvin, if you want to talk about Frankenstink, which is our fantasy football league, which is different than any other league you've ever been in, you can talk to us in Gilded about that as well. So anyway, all right, let me take care of Melvin before I actually get into the content. And we are going to start off with running back Eric Gray. with the running back Eric Gray, who we took in the 5th round. Hang on one second. All right. I think the family's coming down to deal with my dog Melvin. I had to call on the. I can't step away from the show. I had to call on the family reserves here. So anyway, okay. So guys, let's talk about Eric Gray. 5th round pick. We took him in the 5th round. Running back out of Oklahoma. Really cool pick. I like this a lot. Eric Gray. I'm going to be honest. He wasn't like this is a very good running back draft. That just passed right now. And there were quite a few running backs out there I actually liked more than Eric Gray. I think 5th round was perfect value for him, though, actually. I really wouldn't have taken him any sooner. What I like about Eric Gray is that I do believe that he can be a starting running back for us if we needed it. He's not going to replace Saquon Barkley. If this team thinks they're going to go like the Buffalo Bills route and send a guy out there every day for an entire year as an RB1 who's not really an RB1, that would be Eric Gray. That would be a huge mistake. But this is what I think about Eric Gray in terms of the positive side, and it's mostly positives. I think Eric Gray for a few games will be a more than adequate RB1. Like you can feed the ball to him all 3 downs if you want to, and he'll do a fine job over a relatively short period of time. He's not someone you want as an RB1 for an entire year. So if Saquon were to walk next year, if he actually doesn't, after the 2023 season, if he actually does not, stick around with the Giants, if we decide not to keep him, then I wouldn't be sticking with Eric Gray as like a long-term solution. But I think he'll be excellent for giving Saquon some rest. Saquon had I think the most touches last season that he's ever had in his career, and in both combined, both running and receiving. And so he was taking some punishment there, and you can tell definitely like after the first half of the season, he definitely seemed like he hit a wall. I thought it seemed like he hit a wall there for like maybe weeks like 9 through 13, and then after that he definitely seemed to have a rejuvenation. But he definitely seemed to hit a wall over there a little bit. It's a long season, and I think Eric Gray is someone who I would trust very much to handle things for a little while if necessary. So I do like the pick, 5th round pick. I'm totally cool with it. I was actually hoping we would get Israel Abanikanda, who the Jets took that same round, just a little before us. I actually was kind of surprised that Abanikanda fell to the 5th round, and when I saw him that he kept falling, I was hoping he'd fall to us. But listen, I'm not bashing Eric Gray. I like Eric Gray in the 5th round. Like I said, if we needed him to start for let's say like 5 or 6 games, say Saquon got injured, I'd be really, really happy with it. I totally trust the dude. He's a well-rounded running back. He's good in pass protection. He's good with the running ball. He's a decisive runner. He's basically kind of like, he is patient. He will wait for holes to develop, and when they develop, he's got good anticipation, good awareness, and when the holes develop, he hits the holes quickly. And so he's kind of like a one-cut guy. Good burst through the line. He doesn't have that long end speed like a Saquon does. That basically like Saquon can actually take it, say, from your own 20-yard line, your own 25-yard line, all the way to the end zone on a given play. That's not Eric Gray. Like you can give it to Eric Gray, say like at the opponent's 40-yard line, and he could take it to the end zone. But he's not like Saquon, where Saquon can actually take it from like end zone to end zone, on a given play. That's not Eric Gray, but his top end speed is fine. It's more his burst. His initial burst is really good. So, and for me, from a running back, I love what he does bring to the table. I love the patience behind the line. I like the one cut. Not too much dancing around over there. It's basically one cut and decisive, and he bursts through the hole. And he can take some guys with him too. I heard some other content creators who I like a lot. Who I really respect, and I'm not nailing them. I'm not naming any names, but some programs I heard some recently about Eric Ray that he kind of like he's very good. He is very good at making the first guy miss. He's excellent at that. But some criticism I heard was that from others was that they didn't see him as like he kind of like goes down too easy. I don't really see it that way, to be honest. I didn't see it that way with Eric Gray on my film study of Eric Gray. I actually thought he was kind of normal. Like it's some plays maybe he went down, just like with one guy taking him down, and other times it felt like it took like two or three. So I like what Eric Gray brings to the table. He's also adept at as a receiver out of the backfield too. So again, it's kind of like Saquon Barkley light. He's a different player, but he offers everything that Saquon basically offers, just not as good. So he's kind of like the discount version of Saquon. And again, that's not a criticism. It's just he's a fifth round pick, and but I like what he brings to the table. And again, he's a complete running back. So he's proven it all in college at a high level at the University of Oklahoma. I like what we got, man. Fifth round. I hope this doesn't mean Gary Brightwell winds up getting cut because I actually like Brightwell. I think Brightwell actually reminds me of Gary Brightwell actually reminds me of Eric Gray. Like one cut hits the hole decisively, and he bursts through the hole really well. And he does take guys with him. Like he's not necessarily easy to bring down. And I don't really understand the seeming like, I don't know, I guess lack of for Gary Brightwell on the organization. I mean, he was on the team for a second year in a row last year, but the limited touch, he had very limited touches, and the limited touches that he had, I like the way Gary Brightwell performed. So I hope this doesn't mean he's off the team. Honestly, I'm actually not a Matt Breida fan, and for like $4 million a year, I would not have re-signed Matt Breida. But anyway, I transgress. But this is about Eric Ray, and I do like it. Fifth round pick, totally cool. He's 5'10", 207, nice, solid, compact running back. I like that. The guy's got he's got a little banger in him. He can bang some bodies and take some punishment there. He put up a little over 1,300 yards this past season, which was definitely his best season at Oklahoma. Put up a little over 1,300 yards and rushing, that is. He had as you can see in the banner down here, 6.4 yards per carry, very good. He had 11 rushing touchdowns, and he had 229 yards receiving. He didn't have any receiving touchdowns, but whatever. This guy, and he's actually been very consistent with the receiving yards. I think the previous year, he had his junior year, he actually had 229 yards receiving as well. Pretty uncanny there, but he's a well-rounded running back. Again, I don't expect stardom out of this guy, even if say Saquon goes down for a long period of time, or say Saquon moves on next year. I don't think that he is. I don't think Eric Ray is the RB1 replacement. But again, if Saquon goes down for a few games, I'm totally cool with Eric Ray being the RB1 for like say 3 or 4 games. I'd be totally comfortable with it, and I really think he can help Saquon out um, in terms of being able to give the guy a breather, really not losing much. Not losing much if you give Saquon, some plays off, a few more plays off than you normally would. I don't think he'd be losing much there. And actually, the two of them out of the backfield could be pretty cool to see. That'd be pretty interesting, given that they're both, good as pretty good. They both offer a good amount in the receiving game, so that'd be pretty cool, actually. And let me check out the comment over here. Shay tweeted that. Hey, Shay. Good to see you, Shay. Hey, just to let you know, guys, thanks for stopping in, Shay. Shay tweeted that. Just to let you know, Shay is one of our newest members here at T2T, and he is the host of our new Rams-based show. It's a Rams fan show called Ramsaholic. It's actually also on Wednesdays, but it usually airs in the afternoon, anytime between like 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So that's Shay. He is the host of the Ramsaholic Show, and I gotta say that I'm super impressed with Shay as the host of that show. He does a great job. I really don't know much about Shay before he joined T2T. He seems like he's done this before because he seems pretty like a smooth operator. On the screen, I gotta say he does it really, really well. Okay, guys, so let's move back to the content. All right, so that was Eric Gray again, fifth round pick. I liked it a lot. Okay, let's move on to Trey Hawkins. Now, this is where things I think start to get really interesting here. I like the athleticism they got in these last three players. They took Trey Hawkins in round 6, and then they took two other guys who we'll get to in a little bit in round 7. Trey Hawkins, cornerback out of Old Dominion. Okay, it's Old Dominion. So remember, this is a 6th-round pick we're talking about here. So smaller school, but it's funny. Over the past few years, we've been seeing more and more players come out of Old Dominion. I think there's definitely at least two that came out of Old Dominion Dominion this year. There may have been three or four, but I know there's definitely two because there was Trey Hawkins, who the Giants took, cornerback, who the Giants took in the third round, and there was also Zach Kuntz or Kuntz, Kuntz, who the Jets took, I think, like seventh round, maybe sixth round, and that was a guy I had my eye on too because that guy's athleticism. He was a tight end. That guy's athleticism was through the roof. That guy had the best athleticism out of any tight end in this draft class. He may not have been the strongest, but he was the most athletic. And Trey Hawkins is a really athletic player who can play press man. Bingo, ding, ding, ding. And that's a big reason why they took a flyer on this guy in the sixth round. He's coming from Old Dominion. He does have rawness to him. He does have plenty that he needs to improve on, but he's got things that you can't teach, and that is speed and height and size. He's 188 pounds. He's a tad on the light side, but he's 6'2". He's long. This guy is athletic, and he's got a lot of great things to work with. If I'm glad the Giants front office took this dude in the sixth round because I think there's a lot of upside with him. He's got he has those traits that you can't teach, the athleticism and the size. I love that a lot. And he's not, listen, he's playing at lesser competition. He was at Old Dominion. It's not like he was playing, at Oklahoma. Excuse me. It's not like he was playing at Oklahoma, Georgia, Oregon, a much bigger program. Nothing like that at all. But he's got the traits you can work with. We have one of the best, if not the best, defensive back coach in the NFL, and it's been that way for a long time, in Jerome Henderson. That doesn't mean that he's going to get CB1 out of Trey Hawkins in 2 years. However, don't expect too much out of Trey Hawkins this year, given that he's got some improvement to do. I'm definitely going to be intrigued by Trey Hawkins next year. A year of his rookie year, NFL seasoning. He's a smart guy. I've heard him before. I like him a lot. Yet another high character guy. But this guy again, he's got that size, and there are things that he needs to work on in terms of like route recognition. He is a press man guy. He is a press man, but his anticipation is, he does hit hard, as I say in my banner here. The guy likes to hit. Him and the other guy we took out of Houston, who I'm going to talk about in a little bit. They both like to hit. He's very good in run defense. He's aggressive that way. He plays the run D very, very well. But he does need to work on anticipation, uh, route recognition. So I think these are things that can be taught, and he's going to need some time. But for a sixth round pick, I like it a lot. He's actually someone I had my eye on coming into this draft. I knew it was a pretty good cornerback class, and I'm like, man, I would not mind double dipping at cornerback and really getting ourselves some good young depth. You don't know. I have to say potential because you never know how these guys are going to actually turn out, you know, until they get experience. But I would have even been fine originally, double dipping at cornerback earlier in the draft. Like if we did want to take a guy, well, we didn't have a fourth round pick because we traded it away to move up to get Jalen Hyatt. But if we had that fourth round pick and we wanted to double down at cornerback, I would have been cool with it because I like the CB class. I like the depth of this class. But I thought Trey Hawkins in the sixth round was totally cool. I like it a lot. I think there's a lot of upside with this guy, and maybe not starter. He's a sixth round pick, maybe not starter. But I'll be honest with you, I'm not throwing out the possibility that he can't eventually be a starter. I'm not going to bank on it, but I love this guy's athleticism. I like him a lot. And for the sixth round, I thought it was really cool value. I liked him a lot. Okay, so let's move on from Trey Hawkins. All right. Uh, our first pick in the seventh round, we took nose tackle Jordan Riley out of Oregon. Now, I'll tell you something the first thing you can talk about with Jordan Riley is this dude's size. This dude is 6'5", 338 pounds. He could wind up being, with enough grooming, and this guy needs grooming. Uh, with enough grooming, this guy can wind up being possibly, an adequate backup nose tackle for Dexter Lawrence. I don't think Jordan Riley's ever going to be a starter ever. I think he's got too much he needs to learn. But again, here are intangibles that you cannot teach. 6'5", 338 pounds. And he actually moves pretty well for a guy this size. Like you look at him, he doesn't look 338 pounds. That's immense. I think that might even be like Dexter Lawrence's size, and I think Dex is a little shorter. Like Jordan Riley doesn't actually look 338 pounds, but he is 6'5". He's a big guy, but his strength is going to be if he makes it. It's I don't think he'll ever be a starter. It'll be as I think potentially a nice depth. Nice like backup nose tackle. Which in a 3-4 defense, you need a guy who can actually play backup nose tackle. So that would be great. But you've got size that you're starting with, and he's actually really athletic. The guy is at his pro day. I don't think he worked out at the combine, but his pro day, his athletic scores were really good for defensive tackles. He had, I think, like possibly he had one of the highest 40-yard dashes for a defensive lineman. And I think he did really well on his vertical as well. He didn't test strength wise, but that's the thing. This guy needs to get stronger. Like right now, he's okay at playing the run. He's not great. He's not a penetrator. He's not going to be giving you, tackles for losses behind the line. But he does play the run pretty well. And but for a guy this big, you would expect him to be stronger. He's not very strong. He does not really push the pocket back at all. He can be moved on. He handles double teams okay. Okay, but his hand usage is not good. So he does kind of tend to get pushed around. But again, hand usage, you can be taught these things. So there are things that this guy can be taught. The team was obviously banking on this guy's athletic traits that can't be taught. Again, his size, but also his athleticism, things that can't be taught. And the team's banking on that. This is the seventh round. I'm totally cool with that. That's the type of thing I'd be banking on too. It's very hard to find steals in the seventh round, and usually those steals, if they do wind up being steals, it's usually not the first year anyway. It's like the second or third year that those guys, become good enough and learn it enough to actually get on the field enough to make enough plays and start getting recognition. But Jordan Riley, you know what? Given his size, his immenseness, and his athleticism, if you get this guy bulked up, get him stronger, start teaching him, proper hand technique, I think he can actually wind up being down the road, possibly, a really good, solid backup behind Dexter Lawrence. So seventh round, man, those are the type of traits I'm looking for if I was a GM, and I should be a GM because I know my football and I'm a really smart guy. I should be a general manager. Okay, so our last pick in the seventh round, safety. Out of Houston, Gervarius Owens. I like this guy too. I like this pick. Um, Here's someone who I don't think is ever going to be a starter, but he's a high character guy. He was a captain his final year at Houston, and he's actually got experience playing cornerback as well. I think he originally was a cornerback, and then I know definitely last year he was a full time safety. He may have played some safety before that, but I know he has a good amount of experience playing cornerback. Last year he played safety. This dude hits hard. And if you're someone like me who likes physical football, I was like a physical brand of football. I love speed. I want to have some speed on my team, at certain positions, especially cornerback, wide receiver, those skill position players, I got to say. But I like physicality at every position, whether it's running back, like a ground and pound guy, whether it's like a wide receiver who's big and physical and tall, that 50-50 type of wide receiver. I like that type of guy. And in the secondary, I like it too. Gavarius Owens likes to hit, and he can hit. He can bring the wood. So he projects to be better. Not projects, but he's in his college career. He was more of a zone coverage guy. That was his strength, not really press man. And I know Wink, kind of relies on press man coverage. That's what he wants in his secondary, in his cornerbacks at least, in his cornerbacks. But again, Owens is going to be playing safety. So he's very good in run. He's very strong in run support. He's very physical in run support. One of his weaknesses is that if he's playing in the box as safety, he kind of like his angles aren't the best when he's moving up to make a tackle. Um, but he is willing, and when he tackles, he's hit and he hits hard. Again, he was a team captain. I like this guy a lot. He's a good athlete. He's not Trey Hawkins' athleticism, and he's certainly not Deontay Banks' athleticism. But again, that's why he's at safety. But he's a very good athlete in his own right. So I'm very curious about Gavarius Owens. I like this pick as well. He was a name I was familiar with, and is someone I looked into a little bit, not as much as other players going in earlier rounds, obviously, but he was a name I was familiar with, and he was a name that I would have been happy with taking in the later rounds. Um, and we did. We got him in the back end of the seventh round. I was cool with it. I like him. I kind of like Houston talent too. I kind of like the talent that comes out of Houston. I think they got some gamers and ballers over there. So Gavarius Owens, I'm glad you're on our team. 6 foot, 195 pounds. Like his size, could be a little bigger in my opinion for safety, but no complaints about the size at 6 foot, 195 pounds. I like what this guy brings to the table. And again, given our secondary coach, Jerome Henderson, being as great a coach as he is, I'm really intrigued to see what he can do given time, what he can do with both Gavarius Owens, who we took in the seventh round, and Trey Hawkins, who we took in the sixth round. So, but I like these guys, man. These last three picks, Hawkins, Riley, and Owens. They've got those traits you can't teach, and but with good coaching, hopefully you can shore up the weaknesses and make them more complete players. And that's really all you can kind of do in these rounds. So I love the athletes these guys got that the Giants got in rounds 6 and 7. I really do. All right, now probably the player I'm most intrigued talking about, and that is, let me take this down over here. Let me make a slight edit over here. Cool. All right. And that is wide receiver Bryce Ford-Wheaton out of West Virginia. How this guy went undrafted is beyond me. I would have been fine taking him in the fifth round. Maybe a little shaky on that, but sixth round, totally. I mean, I did like 500 draft simulations, leading up to this draft, like I always do every year. I love my mock draft simulators, and there are quite a few times where I took Bryce Ford-Wheaton like in the sixth round, and there were times where I went to go take him in the sixth round and he wasn't there. So I had my eyes on this guy as a late round pick. And actually, it's funny because both simulators I was using was PFF and PFN. Both had him as kind of like like a sixth round pick value. And I thought he'd wind up going sooner. I thought he'd wind up going in the fifth round. If they wanted to double dip at wide receiver and take Bryce Ford-Wheaton in the fifth round, I wouldn't have blinked. I wouldn't have batted an eye. I would have applauded. I would have been cool with it. However, we got him as an undrafted free agent. I was shocked when, after the draft is completed, it was just a short time later after round three ended where, you know, all NFL teams are rushing to sign undrafted free agents that they really want. And I was shocked to see, like a few hours later, that we had come to terms with undrafted free agent Bryce Ford-Wheaton. I could not believe he wasn't drafted. Um, let's talk about what this guy has. 6'4", 221 pounds. Again, things you can't teach. And that is a potential stud wide receiver. Now, would he ever be like, is this going to be like Plax? Man, you could hope so. You could hope so because Plax was very big. Plax was a tall, long, strong guy. And I'm not saying Bryce Ford-Wheaton's going to be Plax, even though we all miss Plax, those of us who got to watch him play on the Giants. But man, I love that size. And this guy is an excellent athlete as well. This is what blows my mind. Listen, his production in college was never fantastic. Last year was his best year. He had 62 receptions, 675 yards, 7 touchdowns. He is a 50-50 guy. He's got no route tree. He's got no route tree. So I get teams not, I got teams passing on him, but not for all 7 rounds. He's got no route tree. This guy is basically like a 50-50 guy, and that's pretty much it. But he's actually a really good athlete. So you've got a lot of stuff to work with here. He ran like a 4.39 40, a 4.38. He ran a 4.38 40 yard dash at the combine. He tested very well athletically across the board with like his 10 yard split, in terms of his 40 yard dash, the 3 cone drill, his vertical jump, his broad jump. he was like either elite or near elite at pretty much every one of these athletic competitions. Um, and he's got good hands too. He's got good hands in contested situations. His hands, I think, leave are kind of like a Darius Slayton-ish when it comes to like those deep uncontested catches. Is where he actually, I think he focuses better when he's got someone, right up against him or kind of like draped all over him. I think Bryce Ford-Wheaton actually his concentration is actually kind of better, but I love what this guy has. This guy doesn't. We don't really have what this guy offers. We don't. You got Isaiah Hodgins, who I like a lot, and I'm really looking forward to seeing again for the second year in a Giants uniform. But he's not a 50-50. Hodgins is more like a Toomer, an Amani Toomer. Uh, he's not really 50-50 guy. Bryce Ford-Wheaton is a 50-50 guy, and he does catch the ball well in traffic. It's funny how, like I said, I think he concentrates better when he's in traffic as opposed to, I think his drops really tend to come more when he's gotten past someone, and he doesn't really get past people, which is why, another reason why he probably was not drafted is that even though he's very athletic, he's not a route runner like at all, and he doesn't have the quickest of feet. So cornerbacks can stick with him. He's not juking anyone out of their shoes. But this guy's size and athleticism was just too good for him to go undrafted. And that we got him as an undrafted free agent. I'm not even sure he's going to necessarily make the team, but the potential there. I mean, come on, come on. I listen. There are wide receivers I absolutely would have taken him over, including that dude from Princeton that everyone was talking up. I forgot what his name is. Begins with an I. It's like I Vicious or something like that. There's a wide receiver out of Princeton that I was never really enamored with. He had some speed. He's from Princeton, so he's probably really smart. I was never really into the guy. I absolutely would have taken Bryce Ford-Wheaton over that guy from Princeton, and that's just to name one. That's like the one off the top of my head. But there are quite a few other wide receivers I would have taken Bryce Ford-Wheaton over, who got drafted and he didn't. So I am super psyched. I could not believe when we got him. Again, he really gives us something we don't have, except for maybe Darren Waller. But Waller is an accomplished. Don't get me wrong. I'm just going off of Waller's size, but he's bigger than Waller. Waller is an accomplished route runner. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Bryce Ford-Wheaton is Waller, but I'm just saying like we don't really have a guy like that size outside of Darren Waller. We certainly don't have a guy that size that are in our wide receiving core. So I'm really intrigued by Bryce Ford-Wheaton. I kind of hope he makes the team as like the number 7 wide receiver, and I do think that we're going to go with 7 wide receivers again, which is fine for the second year in a row because I am so intrigued by this guy. I'm really rooting for him this preseason to ball out and show a lot of growth and and to um and to make the roster because I have a feeling, and listen, I have a feeling he'll wind up on the practice squad. However, I also have a feeling that someone will wind up scooping him up somewhere, off the practice squad. Someone will claim him somewhere, further down the road this season. So that's why I kind of want to see him as like our 7th wide receiver, um, making the team this year. But anyway, guys, again, like Bryce Ford-Wheaton, what he brings to the table, you can't teach, and it is upper level stuff. 6'4", I'll just say it one last time. 6'4", 221 pounds. Um, ran a 4.38 40-yard dash and tested very well in the vast majority of other athletic skills contests. Um, I like it a lot. I like this guy. I really like this signing. It was wonderful. So, but guys, that's it. That is a wrap for this draft class review for our beautiful, wonderful New York Giants that we love. And before I go, if you can, the Twitter handles for me and all my compadres here at Toilets to Titles and the CFB Nation. If you can give us a follow, I'd greatly appreciate it. And just another friendly reminder, if you can, please hit that like button, subscribe, hit that bell, give us that 5-star Apple review because it would really help us out a lot. Anyway, guys, I'm out of here. Hope you enjoyed the video because I really enjoyed making these. I love the draft. If you're a football fan, we all love the draft. We all love the draft. It's so fun to talk about. And man, I am so impressed with our draft class this year. What a cool one! It was so cool. I feel like we have a very competent free agency. Excuse me, a very competent front office, I should say. And this was a really cool draft. I really enjoyed myself a lot. But anyway, guys, I'm out of here. This is Joe. I'll catch you next Wednesday. You have a great weekend. Have a great Memorial Day weekend, and I'll see you next Wednesday, everybody. Take care. Have a good night.